Dante's Discussion.
Welcome back to another edition of Dante's Discussion Answers. That's right, where I answer the question I posted for you a few weeks ago. By now, I've actually been injured recently. I sprained my ankle and it took me out of work for a while. I've been bedridden. Woe is me, right? Either way, that's why I'm coming back at you a lot later than I wanted to, of course. But the question is, of course, for Dark Souls 3. And the question is, what is the best skill to learn, especially like for a beginner or for really anyone to hone the skill in Dark Souls 3 PvP specifically? What is it? And I mean, I basically said spacing. Spacing is it, and there's a lot of things that go hand in hand with spacing, like timing and stuff like that. And let's see what you put now. This is interesting. I didn't post this on Fextra Life or anything else. This is just the YouTube family here, and I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I recently got a lot of subscribers from my man Revan619. Go to his channel, and he posts good content there. So, without further ado, let's do this, huh? Nathorn says, oh man, what a multi-plateau layered question. This is a good one to answer with a single word. Nathornism? But rolling is too basic. Spacing is a good vote. I knew you'd say that. This question is kind of, it depends who you are against. Wait and see is OP, rolling is OP, mind games are higher level skills. Now, all that being said, I think it comes down to patience and observation, and not telling you experience. Ultimately, lag switch is the best. Hail Nathorn and get good. Hey, what can I say about that? I mean, all these things he says is true. Nathornism, it's this new thing where it's basically you go on there and you fight somebody, and then you get flawless victory with ease. Jose says, haven't played in a minute, lol. I say spacing, though, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my vote is spacing, but again, there could be other opinions out there. I wanted to see what other people would think. Aquarius says, hope enemies have good internet. I live in Australia, and yes, I get paired with Americans. Some have a slight delay but are fine. Others, oh god, the delay is about 0.75 seconds. Parrying is a dick. Oh man, latency, especially my past few videos, have been such an issue. I mean, because I like to be on precision timing, and if I'm using a weapon, I'm stuck with the weapon. I'm going against a weapon that's just slightly faster, slightly larger, and can basically hit you from, a bigger distance and quicker. Timing is so key, and if there's latency, it's impossible. You're gonna trade, and that's also an issue with latency, is if, let's say you're losing a fight, if there's latency, it's almost impossible to come back because you have, you can't hit them a lot of times without them trading. And if you're already losing, then you lost the fight. So latency is such a big issue. Andre Stansu says, I'd say spacing 2. DS3 is so strange compared to Dark Souls 2. In Dark Souls 3, it's obviously faster and smaller weapons are better, as opposed to Dark Souls 2, where you could win with all great hammers, clubs, ultra great swords, etc. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like, and again, I think the smaller weapons in Dark Souls 2 were still better, but there at least was that chance you can win with great clubs, ultra greats and stuff like that. There was that chance, if you played really well and you slinked around here and there, you can win. You can get the damage in here and there. Dark Souls 3, you can maybe get one tricky thing once and get lucky, and that's about it. You basically lost if they just stay back and wait for you. It's corny. Dodge52 says, I first want to start by saying that PvP and dueling are different. By that I mean that PvP in cases all player versus player, while dueling only encases a respect-based 1v1 match. In PvP, having fun is the best way to get better and enjoying your game. You bought it, and if you have fun playing your way, you'll forget your losses and focus on your wins, whether you enjoy trolling other players, ganking, and even dueling. However, in dueling, you need to be aware of your surroundings and the opposite player. A great trait to have is noticing traps and ganking setups that will frustrate you and make it easier to have a domino effect of losing over and over again. This is interesting. They sort of flooped, if you will, the PvP versus sort of ganking. Now, when I mean, I guess he is technically right. When I say PvP, it is player versus player. It could be player versus players, so ganking is part of that. When I say PvP, I mean, I do basically mean 1v1, right? This isn't, I'm not talking about ganking per se, right? But I guess what he's saying is that understanding what your surroundings are is one of the best keys to surviving, possibly, and I could definitely understand that. Faze Blorgus says team composition. Oh wait, that's Overwatch. Office Dullard says, I think the most important thing for PvP is the same for PvE, and that is timing. When to attack, when to dodge, and etc. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I wonder if basically, based on what they're saying, I almost think that they are saying it's sort of waiting, not like wait and see, but sort of understanding when to attack, and that could be a wait and see type deal. But yeah, I mean, timing, Conor McGregor says this crap where it's like, I got timing. I'm not the strongest. I might not even be the fastest, but I have timing. And that is definitely a key thing. One thing that throws timings off, obviously, is latency. And that obliterates me. I get crushed when there's latency. It's terrible. I know I need to get back. I know it's like more on me, but still, ugh. Real Ogre 32 says it is hard to have any skill at all in this game. Latency and lag make it hard to hone your skills because every duel is different. That being said, timing is the king in this game and every other game and in life. Timing in life, huh? Yeah, I don't have it. I wish I had it. There's some people that are like, oh yeah, I was a waiter. Actually, this is a true story. I was a waiter, and there's a huge executive, and I was just being an asshole, and then I was like, get me a part in the show, and then they got a part in the show, and now that guy is starring in Guardians of the Galaxy. Divine Beanpole says, spacing and patience, which is why the game gets boring as F, and why For Honor is already better than my beloved Souls series. Now, I can't say for sure about For Honor. I know there's a lot of people playing For Honor. I haven't played it. I didn't buy it. Money is a thing. Believe it or not, I don't make any money on YouTube. But here's the thing. I watch some games, and again, maybe it's just me. For Honor seemed a little bit slow. And here's the thing. He's right now is thinking, oh, that game it's way better. It's already better than Souls. The combat is better. And I can't say whether or not it is or it isn't, but I guarantee you this. Just like almost every game, most games divulge into boring natures if you want to be competitive. That's almost every game. I don't care what game it is. It will be eventually, if you want to win, there's going to be somebody sitting back not attacking, or there's going to be somebody trying to attack and just getting blocked and like reactionary. Like, that's going to happen. Again, I haven't played this game. I haven't seen that much of it. I have watched a few streams, but you're going to see that wait and see will probably win out in that game eventually. I don't know. Again, I don't know exact mechanics, but so many games divulge into playing it slow, waiting, and then making the right time to attack. I mean, you can shooters, fighters, any game you want to talk about, they almost always at the competitive level turn to that point. So we'll see. I mean, only time will tell. And of course, there's Neo PvP gonna come out soon, but I don't know. I feel like that's not gonna be that great, but maybe that's just me. The game's all right, but maybe the PvP is not gonna be tremendous. Michael Stack says, I think it comes down to the difference between better and more or less skilled. You can define better in any way you want. The person who wins more matches has better weaponry, better min-maxed armor, etc. Well, yeah, okay. Skilled, however, is something that we all understand. You can be more skilled than your opponent and still lose for all the reasons above. To me, if you are more skilled than your opponent, that means that with identical gear stats, etc., you will win more often than your opponent. In the short run, though, you can always lose any given match. That's definitely true. I mean, I guess you didn't really answer the question, but this is something I've said, actually, especially in the Dark Souls 2 days, where, I mean, I don't know how many times I had broken straight sword or something. You can watch that video. I had like a broken straight sword, and I was definitely more skilled than some players, but I would lose because I was literally doing 1/10 of the damage, and I had to hit them 1,000 times to win. Same thing with armor. Sometimes you want fashion and you lose a little bit on the armor front. And so, I mean, I totally agree that it's skill based is better than better in a sense. I mean, I know for a fact that there are players who wait and see just to all high health. They're really good at wait and see, that type of play style. But if they were ever really try to mix it up and get in there, they would show how terrible their skills are without being reactionary. And I mean, obviously everything can be flipped and reversed, and there's this and that. But man, it is interesting thinking about certain things. Like if there was a very small arena where people could play and you couldn't really be wait and see, you couldn't back up too much, a lot of players would not do well at all. I mean, but then of course, then there'd be certain weapons that would be just extremely better because you can just spam it. So, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. But I do agree that better doesn't mean more skilled and vice versa. Mr. Gargamel says spacing and timing, of course, as both go hand in hand. Definitely. I definitely think it's true. I mean, you could have all the spacing in the world, but then if you have no timing, you're not going to hit your opponent, right? You have all the timing in the world, but then you probably will get hit a bunch and then they'll lose. So yeah, they go hand in hand, definitely. Wishy-washy says patience. You want to wait for the right moments to attack. If you're unsure, back away. Doesn't mean you have to be purely reactive. Just choose the perfect time to be aggressive and force your opponent to make mistakes so you can punish them for it. If you can frustrate or make your opponent panic in any way, you'll likely emerge victorious. This is interesting. Now, this is a little bit more in depth than you might think. It might seem basic what he said, but no. It actually isn't. It's interesting. It's a different type of mind games. It's something that I like to try to play with people, and it's something that I've been noticing people have been playing with themselves versus with their builds versus other people. So, for instance, there's especially one thing that gets me a lot is a combination of weapons or a combination of something that I haven't seen before. I don't know the timings, so I'll panic roll into something. And somebody has done this to me recently where they had a great sword in the right hand, and in the left hand they had a rapier. So what they would do is they would poke me twice, and then they'd do the R1 with the great sword because I don't want to get poked a third time thinking, oh, they're going to try to go and spam it since I don't have any type of parrying tool. They're going to try to go for the third one, but then they go for the R1. And since the rapier is like a little bit too fast to reactive roll, you end up panic rolling, and then they catch you in the R1 with the greatsword. It's really cool. So they caught you in this moment where you almost have to make a mistake. Otherwise, you could get hit with the other thing because you don't know what they're doing, or you don't know. I mean, they can switch it up. They can try 3 L1s in a row, and then, it's interesting. When you, as the attacker, have more options, and they, as the opponent, can, they have less options, you can get more hits in there. I've been seeing this more and more, and it's pretty cool how the game has been sort of evolving in a sense in that way. So that's what I think he means. You can frustrate your opponent. Now, one thing I love to do against a mage character, we got to watch out for that like dark burst thing, is you get in their face. You make them, because they want to have the space. They want to be able to do the soul mass, the soul spear, blah, blah, blah. You get it. So you just get and you run at them. I don't just waste all your stamina, because even if you trade, you should do more damage than them if they have some sort of weapon, because they have no health and probably no armor. So it's pretty cool. Like, I love the mind games. Sometimes having things a little bit less dense, I guess, as far as things you can do in the game. I think Dark Souls 2, you probably could do more in that game as far as like skill wise things, but sometimes having a less complex system almost makes it more mental and complex in a different way, which I kind of appreciate. Gavin Stone says, I'd like to say spacing because of how important it is, but I'd have to say weapon is actually the most important. Example, 2 players, 2 optimized builds face off, both players of equal skill. Put a Carthage curved sword in one's hands, and let's say the other guy has a Lorien's Ultra Greatsword, which is viewed by many as the strongest Ultra Greatsword in the game. Carthage curved sword is probably going to win a majority of the time, but what if Lorien's guy is good at spacing and Carthage curved sword guy is bad at it? It's going to be more balanced. Probably Lorien's Ultra Greatsword guy on top, But I would say even without masterful spacing skills, the Carless Curve Sword guy is going to start winning most of the time eventually if they keep fighting. Even if he's not consciously focused on improving his spacing, even if he has no idea what spacing even means in Dark Souls, he'll continue to master his weapon and start winning because the meta weapon is heavily compensating for his lack of skill while allowing his skill to grow to max potential. So I'd have to say weapon is probably the most important. That is interesting. Now, I mean, the question I would pose to Gavin Stone here, obviously, is that what if they both had Carthus Curve Sword and then one guy was less skilled and one guy was more skilled? Then what sets those apart? So why wouldn't that be more important? Would that spacing, in a sense, be more important at that point? So you think for most cases the weapon is most important? I don't know. I gotta say, I do think weapon is a part of it. I think weapon matchups are part of it. But let's say you just have a similar weapon. You both have a straight sword, and one could have the Morion blade, and then the other can have the I don't know, broadsword or something like that. I mean, they're fairly similar in size, fairly similar in damage and stuff. One has a sort of added bonus that if you're lower, you do more damage. The other one I think it has the higher base damage, but it might be a little bit shorter. So what happens there when it's more even? What's the difference? Is it still just that weapon? Because those weapons aren't really that different. But I don't know. It's interesting because, in a sense, it still would go down to the weapon at that point, because I think Morion's blade has a little bit on the range, and again, I always say it, if you can hit somebody, you can win. That's the thing. If you can hit somebody, you can win. If the other person keeps whiffing because they're just too short and they're not able to hit them, I mean, they're going to lose, you know? So, I don't know. It is interesting that you did put the weapon in the front. I don't necessarily agree, because I do still think that you can beat, you know, I mean, any great player can beat any other great player with just better spacing with similar weapons. But then it is interesting because, man, the lopsided builds and weapons definitely do have a big effect. I always say that a magic user versus somebody with an ultra great weapon, or really even a great weapon, that's one of, if not the most lopsided matches in the game, because you got somebody who's doing range battle and somebody who is so slow and so easy to get away from. It's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some validity to that. I can't say there isn't. Murasaki Bara at Sushi says, composure for sure, spacing, and don't be a reactive player. Being reactive will cause you to lose too many opportunities to destroy an enemy, and it's a very boring playstyle to fight. It's a playstyle to play and fight. I definitely agree that it's very boring playstyle. I definitely agree that you can lose opportunities to destroy an enemy. I will, however, say it most likely won't make you lose more matches than you win. I think if you're a reactive player, you're going to win more than you're going to lose, unless you can't handle aggression. You're able to handle aggression well, or dish out aggression when they have little stamina, then maybe. But as far as that, but then Michael Stack reacts to this and says, with regard to reactive playstyles, let me defend them a bit. I think the key is to match your playstyle to your and your opponent's weapon. For example, if I'm using a straight sword against somebody with an ultra great sword, I'm going to be reactive as hell to avoid swinging at the same time as my opponent in trading. On the other hand, if I have, for example, a great sword against somebody with an S-Stock, I can afford to be more aggressive. We shouldn't think about the playstyles as being good or bad. Instead, you have to match them to the situation. And I gotta say, I do definitely agree with that. I mean, I do it all the time. You see it in my videos. I'm like, damn it, you know, I have this dagger. I can't beat that aggressive with somebody with a great sword. I can't do it. If I do it, I'm going to get caught in it. I actually can be a little bit aggressive with ultras, only because I can get a hit in and then roll, because that's how fast daggers are. But as far as great swords, you have to take it slow. You really have to play a little bit much more reactionary, which is annoying. Really, with daggers in general, depending on what their weapon is, a lot of times you got to play a little bit reactionary anyway, because you got to get those quick strikes in. If you trade, you lose. If you get hit twice, obviously you lose. Like, you have to hit them like 5 times more than they have to hit you. So yeah, I definitely understand it. And I do agree with the playstyles. You can't say it's neither good or bad. It's sort of the a culmination of how the game sort of played out, which it's corny. You can't say it's bad. It is in the game. It's something you can do. I don't like it. It is boring. But I mean, I recently had a match where I had a curved sword. It was like Warden's Twin Blade or something like that, and I was going against somebody with a why can't I think of it? Washing pole. And the match, because like we both wanted to win, the match just divulged into who can do the running attack better. And I end up losing the match because, I mean, they had the washing pole and my weapon is way shorter and weaker. I ended up losing the match, but that's what it ended up being. And like, who could just do a running attack? Like, that was one of the craziest things like I've seen in the game, only because I haven't really seen such a thing. I have seen matches with Karthus curved swords, a Karthoff as you were, and where it was basically who can do the running attack better and then get the quick R1 swipe to roll punish. Like, who could do that spacing better? And again, that's what I think it's all about. I think it's all about spacing, and timing is definitely a huge part of it. Julio Mata says, to me, I'd say it's your composure, most of it being how you can space things properly and make your opponent panic, which I think it's quite easy to punish in this game. So how can you handle your opponent's playstyle and gear? For example, when can you lay down the aggression or back out a little and punish your opponent? If they're being too aggressive, and this works for all playstyles, I'm an aggressive player by nature, so to me, the easiest way to play is by staying just outside of my opponent's range, but close enough that I can keep on putting pressure and punishing mistakes. So, passive aggressive, if you will. Ha ha! Yes, I mean, I would say Dark Souls 3 has definitely made me more passive aggressive, and I kind of like that. Kind of like the adjectives here or whatever to describe it. Passive aggressive, where you stay close enough to where maybe you can hit them, you put the pressure on, but you stay far enough to where you can put your character back and maybe not get hit. I mean, I don't know how many times you watch my videos where I'm like, wow, I can't believe they hit me. My spacing is like, I'm telling you, my spacing is like pixel perfect sometimes. And then every now and then we'll get some latency things, and then I'm hit from a mile away. But for the most part, I try to keep it very, very close to people. Try to stay as close as I can without getting destroyed, dependent on what they do. And timing of rolling and timing of reactions and so all that stuff. It all comes together and it makes you a better player. Marcos Gallardo says, having fun and being a good sport. I lost a match to Karthus Bleed Bill, and the other player apologized because the weapon is too good. After that, I didn't care about losing. That is a great way. That is a great attitude, a great way to play. I applaud you, Marcos. That is pretty good. Just have fun. If you're just playing for fun, why not just have fun? If you lose to somebody who has a better weapon than you, I mean, how could you really feel bad, right? I mean, that's why that's not why, but I use every weapon, or like any weapon, whatever, I don't care. And if I lose to, like, let's say I'm using the, I don't know, great wooden hammer, and I'm fighting somebody who has somebody who has like a washing pole or something where they can just run in, run out, run in, run out, chances are I'm going to lose that fight, especially if all they're doing is the running attack and it's latencies there. It's I hate that weapon so badly. Great wooden hammer. I don't hate the washing pole. Any shield just destroys that weapon, makes it absolutely worthless. But yeah, have fun. Have fun. Don't take your losses too seriously. I mean, anytime I've ever gotten ganked, I was never upset because I'm like, well, guess what? I just reload the game or whatever. I just come back. I didn't lose anything. Who cares? I mean, I lost a little bit of time. That's a little annoying, but what are you going to do? Michael Conway says, no way to really put it into one specific concept, but I would say spacing, ability to adapt, and knowledge of weapon movesets. Tough question, really open-ended, but that makes it great for discussions. Yes, Dante's discussions. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It is a little bit more open-ended, a little bit like adaptability, something I miss from Dark Souls 2. Understanding the game. I mean, you could have the greatest reflexes in the world and understand what your character can do, meaning you can roll, you can hit them, you can do weapon art. But let's say you fought somebody who you never saw anyone parry with the washing pole before. And then they're doing that stance and you're like, oh, they're going to try to hit me. I'll just hit them out of it. And you go in there and you get parried. That actually happened to me. When this game first came out, I didn't know that weapon art existed. I fought somebody invaded or something, and then they parried me. And I was confused. I didn't know what the hell happened. I was like, what? That's crazy. So then I had to pick one up, and I was like, wow, you can do that? That's cool. So you can be the best player in the game and not understanding what your opponent has or is using, or their I guess their game plan in a sense, and you can still lose. I mean, I've seen this. Now, it's interesting. One of the things I say about PvP is a lot of people are like, well, no, like the only way to get better in PvP is to play good players. And you can get better definitely playing good players. But if you're fighting the same 3 people over and over and over again, you're not really going to get that much better. You got to fight random people and try to get ready for every situation possible. I mean, there are definitely players who they probably just picked up the game and I lost because I was like, wow, I gave them too much credit, thinking they weren't going to do all these things or do all these things. Like some of those things where they're like, I didn't think they're going to attack a third time because I clearly was throwing out parries or blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying? Like, you didn't think they're going to do certain things because that was like a rookie type of move, a rookie mistake. But then they do it and then you're like, geez, I just lost to that guy. That guy pressed R1 7 times in a row and I just lost because I just stayed there thinking they were going to stop. That's the type of stuff that makes being on your toes, fighting random people all the time, makes you a better player. And that's really what it's about. I mean, just keep playing, keep seeing everything, being very knowledgeable about the game. I mean, that's up there. That is up there. I still think spacing is a little bit better, but I mean, you wouldn't really have spacing if you didn't have the foreknowledge before then. I mean, how do you know that the R2 of the what was it? The R2 of the parrying dagger or something like that is like a poke or something. You know, like, how do you know? Well, you have to have the knowledge. I mean, some of these weapons people never use. It's mostly like curved sword garbage. So yeah, knowledge is a big deal. Last but not least, Way of White Marcus. Mastering Phantom range. Never forget rolling even if you don't think it will hit you. Saves lives. Guarantee. I guarantee. Ah, yes. Phantom range, ladies and gentlemen. It gets me. It gets you with the Karthus. It gets you with the R2 of most straight swords. It gets you with the running attack of great swords. It gets you with some jumping attacks, actually. Jumping attacks of a lot of weapons. There's weird phantom range. Running attack of a lot of katanas. Curved swords, again, just because it's annoying. What else is there super phantom range with? Dark sword, just dark swords, R1, because the thing is gigantic. There's probably a lot of others I'm missing, but you get it. I mean, understanding that, I mean, spacing and just being that slight bit away, and never forgetting to roll. Now, this is one thing I've been caught in a lot. If you watch my videos, I always just try to space and try to stay as close as possible and not roll away, because then I lose my distance to my opponent, and I don't want to do that. So it is interesting that he says rolling even if you don't think it'll hit you. A lot of times it just hits me and I eat it. I just take it. I'm like, damn it, I'll get better spacing. But how are you going to learn spacing if you don't know where the threshold of getting hit is? You know, you can't roll at everything, especially if you're trying to be aggressive. But yeah. Anyways, I hope this wait was worth it for the whatever 20 or so comments. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy these. I do want to continue to do these. Life gets in the way, guys. I'm sorry. I would definitely be doing this every week like I've been doing it, but I've been a little bit sluggish lately with injuries and work and blah blah blah. You get it. You understand. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. I think spacing is king. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think, and tell me if there's a topic you think you want to see what people say about, because I don't know, I'm starting to run out of questions, I think. Maybe. I mean, I could always come up with something, but I want good questions, you know. So like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think, and I will be back.